Hello, welcome to Smash Hits Sports, and Selection Sunday has come and gone. We are recording this at 7:30 Sunday night, so right after the brackets were released. We're going to be giving our initial reactions, our favorite matchups for round one, and then our final four predictions. Nick, you are the bracketologist, and I know that you were putting out all sorts of your bracket predictions this weekend as conference tournament play was going on. How do you feel? You were live on TikTok for 10 hours, which if you don't follow Nick on TikTok,
Yeah.
go follow him over there. But you were live for 10 hours. How do you feel now that the bracket is out?
You know what? It was shocking because I've never attacked it this aggressively. I've never gone into it kind of like, I'm going to nail this. I kind of went in thinking this can't be that hard to get into the brains of people that are trying to make the most logical decision about something that is accessible to everyone. So I thought to myself, I can do this. And there were some things that I got right that I think a lot of people got wrong. Drake as a 10 seed, I felt good about. Florida Atlantic as an 8. That shocked a lot of people. But the big thing was the Mountain West. And I don't know if I'll ever understand this. But if you go to your average, just kind of Bart Torvik resume setup, machine, I guess, you look at all these Mountain West teams. Boise State they're in the play-in game.
Mhm.
They're 27th in the net, 6-5 in quad one, 500 record against quality teams, quad 3 loss. By no means would I consider that a play-in team. 6 quad 1 wins and 4 quad 1A wins is fantastic. Colorado's the team they're playing who has 0 quad 1A wins, and it just doesn't make sense. But Colorado State was the last team in. Same exact situation where they have 6 quad 1 wins, a 500 record against quality team. It's just kind of like they're top 40 in the net. I was shocked to see the disrespect, especially after a banner season for the Mountain West where, we're supposed to be celebrating getting 6 teams in, but instead we're saying, like, okay, you have San Diego State, who's a 5 seed, and they might have got benefit of the doubt because they made the championship last year. Then the rest of them, you gave 8 seed, 10 seed, 10 seed, 11 seed, 11 seed, or 8 seed, 10 seed, 10 seed, 10 seed, 11 seed, which is basically like, okay, yeah, you barely got all these teams in, where it's like, this was a fantastic year. Now you're basically setting them all up for failure, which is just disappointing. And then on the contrary, St. Mary's Gonzaga, who are in worse conferences, you can't argue against that.
Stunned to see them both in the 5 line.
Stunned. Their resumes: Gonzaga 3 quad 1 wins, 7-7 in against quality teams, 2 quad 1A wins. What? The only difference is strength of record, and my thing is Gonzaga played, some good teams. They lost to all of them, right? Besides Kentucky.
Kentucky's the only good, great win that they have.
Right, and that was in February. We're looking at just the beginning of the year. It was like, oh my God, Gonzaga, they're playing UConn, they're going to get smoked, and then they did get smoked. And then they went into conference play in a bad conference, and they didn't win their conference regular season or championship. Like they didn't do anything, and they get a 5. Whereas Utah State, who wins their regular season championship in a harder conference, who probably actually had better wins out of conference, gets an 8. I didn't understand it in the slightest. I don't know if I ever will, but.
So the other thing that I was getting a lot of in my comments is the Big East. We talked about how awesome the Big East was all year. Marquette, Creighton, UConn, right, are a 1, 2, and 3 seed respectively. There's not another Big East team in the tournament.
No.
How surprised are you that St. John's wasn't even on the first 4 out graphic?
Which that surprises me. I'm not gonna lie, because that's a borderline top 30 net team, with, I would say, a pretty decent resume. But I'm not that surprised because we've known for quite a while. I would say Seton Hall maybe was thought of to be at, like, they were in and they kind of really just fell off. But for the most part, it was those top 3 teams and the rest were just trying to lose. They were trying to fail. It felt like Villanova, Providence, St. John's, they weren't doing enough. And then by the end, they started to trickle their way up to where we were like, wow, we could get 7. And Butler had that, little trend of
Yeah.
being considered as well. But they all, at the end, didn't really deserve it. I do think St. John's had a case, but you look at Providence, Seton Hall, I just didn't see it with them. Just too low in the net, too low in KPI, just not enough. But it is wild though, because you would assume great conference, great year for the Big East, only 3 teams representing. Just feels weird.
Yep. Some other teams that I think are sweet boys at Indiana State.
They just
Unfortunately,
got they got
there's
they
nothing
got
you could
screwed
do.
by this past week, man. Like everyone
Yeah.
winning, all the bubble teams winning. Indiana State had to watch that, just heartbreaking
Yep.
every second.
Dayton not winning the A10 screwed them quite a bit. Oregon
NC
winning the
State
Pac
and Oregon.
or NC State and Oregon. So not much you could do. Everything broke the wrong way. I'm glad that they had them at least in the first 4 out, but it's insane to me to see a top 30 team in the net not make the tournament. But
Yeah.
it,
Yeah. I didn't think we would really see it. I feel like that is the parameter of like, you're a fantastic team. You're top 30 in the net. You are a really good team. Automatic. You're going to be in the tournament. And I will say Mississippi State, who I feel like their resume is really not that special to me. They got an 8 seed, lower than Indiana State in the net. I think they had a slightly better resume than Indiana State, but for them to be an 8 seed and Indiana State to be not in doesn't make sense. I need to hear them talk about that because I just don't get it. I had Mississippi State out today, Cody. I'm on live 10
yeah,
hours. Whole time, Mississippi State's out. St. John's in. UVA also out. Those are the 2 I got wrong.
yeah,
Was Mississippi State, UVA. I put in St. John's, and Oklahoma is kind of the shocker, right?
yep. I was never high on Oklahoma, so I understand it. But yeah, the UVA getting in was very surprising to me. I just don't think that they had a phenomenal resume, but I guess maybe they did enough in the ACC tournament, but I don't think they did that either. That being said, are those the 2 teams that you were the most shocked to get in? Was Mississippi State and Virginia?
Virginia, yes. I wouldn't shocked to get in is tough because it was truly a coin flip for like 9 or 10 teams.
Yeah.
But seed line, like Mississippi State getting an 8 was shocking to me. If we're talking about teams that were seeded higher than I thought they'd be, Texas A&M,
Yep.
Being a 9 instead of a 10 or 11, that was surprising because again, I would have assumed if they didn't beat Kentucky in the SEC tournament that they're not in, but apparently they might have been safe the whole time. That's kind of what's wild. Same with Mississippi State. They could have lost first game of their conference tournament and been in probably if they're an 8 seed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what are we even talking about them beating Tennessee for? And on the contrary, I think it's every Mountain West team was just severely underseeded.
Yeah.
By I am a little bit surprised. JMU gets a 12. Duquesne gets an 11. I think Grand
that
Canyon
was
12, Duquesne 11. What is that?
Duquesne was shocking to me because they would not have been in the tournament, and they wouldn't have sniffed the tournament had they not won the A10.
Yeah, exactly.
And even if they made it to the conference championship and lost, I still don't think they would have gotten in.
They're not even close. No.
Yeah, so it's stunning to me to see them as 11, especially when, like you said, them. I think Samford got a 13. I think Samford is better than Duquesne.
I had Samford as a 12 and Duquesne as a 13.
Yeah, so that was shocking to me.
You look at it. James Madison has their top 35 in strength of record. They were considered as a bubble team by so many, and Duquesne's strength of record is 79, and they aren't even top 75 in the net. It's just stuff like that where I almost demand an explanation. Kind of like I would love
Yeah,
to speak to someone. I
it,
want to be Karen.
it's very interesting for sure. I am heartbroken. The committee had the opportunity to do what I thought was going to be the funniest thing in the world, and that is make St. Peter's a 16 seed and then have them play Purdue in round one. I think would have
Yeah,
been the funniest thing possible. They did not do
yeah.
that.
I
Um,
think they definitely didn't do it on purpose. I'm pretty sure. Like I think they were probably like, we don't want that same matchup again. But because I thought
that's
of that as well, it would have been sick.
but they did give them to Tennessee, which I do think is kind of funny. That being
They
said,
made him a yeah.
first round matchups. Who are out of all your first round matchups? Who are you most excited for? Who do you immediately have on upset alert? I'll start with the first round matchup that I am absolutely the most excited for is the 8-9 matchup between Nebraska and Texas A&M. So
Yeah.
for this is Nebraska has never won an NCAA tournament game ever. It's insane to me that they have not. Now you have Trev Alberts, who is the who was the AD at Nebraska, got hired by Texas A&M this
Mm.
week.
What?
This week he is
What?
stolen from Nebraska by Texas A&M, and now these two teams are matched up in the first round of the NCAA tournament. This is absolute cinema. There are not two fan bases that like they don't have a reason to hate each other outside of like the recent news. This is going to be one of the most intense matchups, I think, in the first round. It's going to be absolute cinema. I cannot wait to watch like the Twitter like discourse that is going to happen. These fan bases are going to be at each other's throats. That I cannot
Yeah.
wait for that game round one.
Is that a that's a Friday game? Okay. Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure.
I think it is. But you're 100% right. I mean, I'll be rooting for Nebraska pretty heavily. I think that's a great draw. I think it's a great draw for Nebraska, if I'm being honest. You're
Yep.
playing a team with 14 losses who I personally have denounced because they look horrible when I choose to watch them.
Just
They do not
denounced.
pass the eye test when I choose to watch. Obviously, the committee. I'm honestly convinced the committee doesn't watch half the games at this point. I really don't think they do. They're just too busy. But the games that I would be really excited for: Drake, Washington State.
Yes. That'll be an
Pumped
outstanding
for that.
matchup.
Um, Again, Alabama, Charleston. I had that for a long time in the West region, and I think was convinced out of it maybe last second, which is kind of upsetting, but doesn't matter. I've been excited for that. I can't say Clemson, New Mexico, because that's going to give me an aneurysm. Kind of going through it as we speak. Dayton,
As
Nevada. Yep.
I think Dayton, Nevada, you could have, if you would have told me that those two teams are playing each other in the first round, I would have been like, sweet, Nevada got the 7, Dayton got the 10. Like, that'll be a fun matchup. Shocked that it's the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I had Dayton as a 7, Nevada as a 6. So, again, that just shows you that the Mountain West, I believe Dayton was completely a 7 seed. I think that they nailed it. Nevada, how are they a 10?
I
I don't. How am
don't
I?
see it.
There's people, and I think so many, like, no one had them as a 10. I can guarantee that it's just baffling. So, yeah, I agree that I never would have even guessed that would be a first round matchup, but it's cool that we get one. It feels kind of Sweet 16 ish. If Colorado State beats Virginia, Colorado State, Texas would be fun.
Yep.
South Carolina, Oregon, I don't know, I guess. Kansas, Samford, Gonzaga, McNeese. Oh, man.
Gonzaga McNeese
Gonzaga,
is
McNeese is the
easily
one.
going to be the most popular 12 over 5. Like
That's the
everybody's
game.
going to pick a couple of them. That one is going to be picked so much. And I'm going to be honest, I might side with the public on that. Mark Few versus Will Wade. Like that's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, I think it's brutal for both sides. Like, because I want to say like that sucks for Gonzaga, to get McNeese. Like, how it doesn't get worse. But if you're McNeese, Gonzaga, is like notorious. You know, they make the Sweet 16 every year. Like you'd much rather get a South Carolina, right? So that's just a tough draw. I would say least excited for is TCU, Utah State. Do not care at all. Pass.
Pass.
Pass. I'd watch Purdue grambling over that, obviously. I don't know. Boise, Colorado. I don't even. Where's the
That'll be an
juice there?
interesting matchup because those are two teams that like regionally are very close. Like I
True.
think that would be like a pretty fun matchup. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I
there
mean, it's
are
Kentucky, Oakland would be great. I'm like,
yep,
Wisconsin, JMU, Gonzaga, McNeese. Those are like 1-2, I think, and then
fair.
Nebraska, Texas A&M might be next. But then, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's always been this whole year that the 5-12s were always going to be awesome, and that the public is going to want to take the 12 in every single game, and I think that's going to be the case. I love the 12s in all of these.
Dude, I wanted to pick Grand Canyon so bad. And then I saw that game against St. Mary's is in Spokane, Washington, and my heart sunk because I don't think that's going to be a home game. That's going to be a home game for St. Mary's. Like I just
Well,
don't
can I
see.
counter you?
Okay.
Because St. Mary's is actually a lot better on the road than they are at home this year, somehow, statistically. They are undefeated on the road.
That's crazy.
They are far and away the best adjusted efficiency team on the road. Far and away. Number one, and then number two is like way worse. I don't even know who it is. Houston, maybe. But at home, yeah, they're just kind of a normal team. So I don't know if it matters that much. Maybe they wanted to go to Dallas or something. Maybe this is bad news for St. Mary's. But the problem is, and this happens every damn year, Cody, St. Mary's always gets a freaking 5 seed. It happened last year. You can't pick them. You're looking at them and you're like, I can't pick them. Like, there's no way I'm taking them. There's no way I'm taking St. Mary's in that game. They're always a 5. I feel like over half the time they end up winning against the 12, but I can't do it. And it bothers me. Like, stop making them a 5 seed, damn it. They shouldn't be a 5 this year.
Yep. A team that I do think got screwed a little bit, Auburn at the 4 line. If they beat Yale and they end up matching up against San Diego State, that is an awful matchup for them. I think that would be tough. And then if you win that game, you probably got to play UConn. I mean, that's murderer's row. And
well, yeah, Auburn, UConn, that's really tough for Auburn. I'm not necessarily afraid of San Diego State. We were obviously right about them making it to the Mountain West Championship game because that's death taxes, right?
Yep.
But I still have watched enough San Diego State to know that they struggle to find shots a lot. They give up some, a lot of threes. Honestly, if a team gets hot, they could lose by a bunch. UAB feels like they match up pretty well against San Diego State. I'm not gonna lie. It just depends if we get a mature UAB team, a well-coached Andy Kennedy UAB team, or if we get like Chuck and bullshit type of UAB team that we see sometimes. Mm-hmm. But again, now they're in the big dance. No one thought they were going to be in the big dance. No. Now they're here. That's a 12 of all things.
Yep. Crazy. Another matchup that I'm really excited for, not necessarily the first matchup, but if we end up getting Texas and Tennessee in the round of 32, tell me why I shouldn't pick against Rick Barnes. You know what I mean? That like Max Abesmus, he's done it before. This is a Texas team. I was thinking no matter where this Texas team ended up that I was going to pick them because I feel good about them. They've been playing fairly well. They didn't play great in the Big 12 tournament, but now they have a shot to maybe go up against Tennessee. That would be a Max Abesmus against Dalton Connect. I mean, what a matchup. That would be so much fun to watch.
It's Rick Barnes versus the ghost of Rick Barnes, which I counter that maybe there's a Rick Barnesception that goes on where Rick Barnes at Tennessee tries to sell the game so that the ghost of Rick Barnes at Texas wins, but he's so bad at actually doing what he's supposed to that he can't sell successfully so that Tennessee actually wins, but he's trying to lose because he's doing it for his alma mater. It's tough. What do you do there?
What do you do? Oh man.
But I do agree with you that Texas is like definitely sneaky. Like could make a big run, especially like you're blessed with getting a Tennessee team that loves to choke here in the second round. So who
Yep.
knows, man? St. Peter's could beat them.
Would be crazy. Would be crazy, but we've seen crazier. I do have to ask because your team is in the tournament and mine
Yeah,
is not. I'm gonna be watching from the couch. How do you feel? Clemson got the 6th draw. I thought that was pretty
spot on.
spot
Spot
on.
on.
They match up with a New Mexico team that is playing good ball right now. They did win the Mountain West, secured their fate because I know that they were definitely on the bubble, and I think may just judging at how they value these Mountain West teams, I think they may have been on the wrong side of the bubble.
I
Had
think
they
they were
given them the
probably out if
option,
they lost that game. Yeah,
yeah,
which
but
is
they didn't,
shocking.
and they won, and they're here. How do you feel about that matchup? I think that could be a fairly good game, but I don't want to jinx it.
Well,
I feel pretty good about your Clemson Tigers here.
this is the thing: is that like you could get two sides of the coin with Clemson, where I can close my eyes and see New Mexico just coming out, just feeling disrespected, riding a wave of momentum, just knocks Clemson in the jaw, hitting threes. Clemson obviously is extremely capable of going 0 for 40 from three. They're one of those teams
Mm-hmm.
that can do that. So I can see a world where we are blown out of the water. Or, Clemson comes out fired up. They're back in the tournament. Um, they felt like they got robbed last year and they just lost bad to Boston College. They need to avenge that. And that I'm sort of leaning towards that being the reality where it's just like refuse to lose vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where I think the talent at Clemson does outweigh the talent at New Mexico. And I think it's helpful actually because New Mexico's guards are pretty small. They're pesky defenders, but like, Joe Girard's nightmare is probably like a 6'5" lanky, guard who can just shadow you because then Joe Girard's never getting a shot up. But I think Girard off some ball screens and whatnot, he could probably drop 20 against New Mexico. So I do like Clemson, but I was never not going to pick Clemson. It's just I do think it's kind of stupid that we're playing New Mexico, whereas a team like South Carolina, who's a 6 seed, plays Oregon, whereas Oregon was never considered as a bubble team until
Mm-hmm.
they won their conference tournament. New Mexico was in safely for over half the year, wins their conference tournament, and now we have to play them, and South Carolina gets Oregon. It's just stupid to me. But
Yeah, and Dante played a hell of a game for
yeah, he's prime Shaq.
Oregon. Um, prime shot. He did go 12 for 12 from the field against Colorado in that win. Had some insane blocks. He blocked a 3 at the end of that game that pretty much sealed the deal. Blocked the shot and then went and tipped the ball to his teammate so he could get the ball, go to the line to the free throw stripe and ice the game. How do you feel about some of these teams that have gone on runs to win their conference? So we just talked about New Mexico, but Oregon did it to get their place in the Pac-12, and then NC State winning 5 games in 5 days to win the
Yeah.
ACC that's going to be one of the most talked about stories as we head into this weekend.
No, I mean absolutely historic. It'll be talked about for the rest of time. We'll be 50 watching ACC hoops and saying like, a team hasn't gone 5 wins in 5 days since that 2024 season. Now my thing with your question is, remember like Iowa 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
They kind of miracle run a little bit, win the Big Ten, get a 5 seed, and for some reason, half of the world has them in the Final Four. It was crazy the amount of people that had like 1 seed, 2 seed, and then 5 seed Iowa. Where
Yep.
it's like you're ignoring this 5-12 match, like you know what I mean. So, and of course they lost to Richmond in the first round, and everyone's brackets busted. So my thing is the more hype a team gets for going on one of these runs, I think the worse it is. It's some weird spiritual subconscious thing, but it just happens to exist. It feels like I think NC State is getting triple the hype that Oregon is. So I think that's good for Oregon. I think NC State's probably going to lose first round. That's kind of just where I'm at with that. Obviously, some other teams are going on runs, but like those feel like kind of the two that people are going to be focusing on. You know?
Yep, yep. I don't disagree. Um, a team that we've talked about a ton this year, Kentucky. They got a 3 seed. They match up with Oakland. I think that should be a fun game, but I don't really see Oakland taking that one. Um, but Kentucky has a path. Kentucky has a very interesting path. Marquette, assuming that Tyler Kolek is healthy, I mean, they're great, but if he's not, that's going to be not as good of a Marquette team as we've seen. Florida is playing some good ball, but unfortunately, they had that devastating injury earlier today with Micah. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last
Hanlockton.
name. Hanlockton. It's never a good scene when your name is trending with Kevin Ware. Is kind of the synopsis of
Oh
that
my God!
injury.
See, I didn't see it. I just was told about
Oh,
it, but I did not see it.
it is broken ankle, shin through the skin.
No,
Like,
no, it's not.
yes, yes, it was that. It was
No,
again like
what?
I was watching the broadcast. It was an injury that you could audibly hear, which is the absolute worst.
Well,
Um,
dude, that's a game changer, Cody, because
yeah,
that I mean, not like horrific, but if we're talking about, um, I honestly would rather focus on the fact that I think Florida could rally around how horrific that is as a tragedy. Like Louisville, Kevin Ware, that happened. They end up winning the title.
yep,
Um, I honestly think that might bring Florida a little bit closer, or kind of just make them want it more. Um, and kind of get into the heads of the teams they play, because they're like, oh my God, I saw that video too. That's fucked up. No, I again have not seen it and am afraid to. But my heart goes out to him. I had no idea. People were talking in my comments um, oh, how do you think Florida's going to do without their big man? I'm like, oh, well, like what happened? They're like, he got hurt. I'm like, okay, yeah. I mean, they have depth. No idea it was like that.
yeah. No, that was it. Was one of those injuries that was like shocking to the eyes. Like,
Should I watch it live right now?
yeah, sure. Pull it up, watch it live. I would love to see your immediate reaction because it's not great. It's not great. Um, that being said, until you get it pulled up, they will play Boise State, Colorado. I think will be interesting. But yeah, so the other matchups that I think will be fun. Creighton is a 3 seed against Akron, who won the MAC. I think that could be a potentially fun matchup. The other, we talked briefly, Drake and Washington State. Washington State did not end their year off incredibly hot. They lost to Washington at home at the end of that year.
Oh
Did you
my
pull it
God.
up?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness. Oh. Oh, that is awful. Yeah, I'm getting rid of that.
yeah,
All right, I saw it. Anyway, oof.
yeah. So that
Anyway, you
sucks.
said Drake, Washington State.
Yeah, Drake Washington State should be a really fun matchup because I mean Drake was playing great ball. They obviously beat an Indiana State team that we all loved, but I think that is a game that could potentially be a lot of fun too. Which of these
Yeah.
regions, if you had to, if like the toughest potential region to get out of? Because in my mind, I think it's the South. I think the South is incredibly difficult. And then I think the West is probably the easiest if you are a North Carolina or an Arizona trying to get out of that. Um,
Well, it's nice because like it's not every day that you get like you're a 6 seed and you've beaten the 1 seed that you're in their region. You know, like
mhm.
as like Clemson beat UNC at UNC. So that helps me think that like that could be absolutely chaotic in the West. But as far as the toughest, I mean, yeah, you got UConn, like Auburn, Illinois, and Iowa State. Like that's not ideal, but that could have been a couple different combinations that are worse. So I think I probably agree with you that if you combined, Kentucky, Florida, a healthy Marquette, Duke, and then if Texas Tech and Wisconsin are playing at their height, and Nebraska, of course, like you got a lot of really good teams that are kind of hungry in that region. So it's looking dangerous for Houston, but a lot of the times, man, it's the region that looks the hardest might be the one that's the easiest. It's crazy stuff happens. So.
Yep. That's without a shadow of a doubt. That being said, anything else from your, initial reaction, initial thoughts on the bracket before we go ahead and we'll pick a Final Four, because you can't look at the bracket and not pick a Final Four. Now, I will say, don't hold me to my Final Four, because my brain, I'm going to overthink everything over the next 2 days. Like I will overthink every game, every decision, every matchup, like the timing of the games. I will let it get into my head. But before we pick a Final Four, is there anything in here that really jumps off the page at you?
This is what I'll say, Cody. I think this is kind of an important thing to say. Last year, we had, and there's a chance I've said this maybe sparingly in the past month or two, but last year we had 16 seed FDU, massive upset. 15 seed Princeton, massive upset. Very rare, never happens that you get both. So people look back at it as like, wow, what a chaotic March Madness, insane upsets galore. But when you look at the first round, which is obviously the most popular time to pick upsets, there were no 14 seeds or 13 seeds or 12 seeds that won a game. There was one 11 seed. It was Pitt. Pitt beat Iowa State. And then there was only one 10 seed, which was Penn State over Texas A&M. And maybe FAU was the only 9 seed. I feel like, and that's not even really an upset. So you had a 10, an 11, and then a 15 and a 16, and that's it. Where that's not a lot at all, right? That's four upsets, 32 games. So what I would say is that I don't know if the strategy is to go like, oh, I like McNeese, but whoever, like I'll take Kansas to beat McNeese in the next round. I think you should honestly pick upsets a little more sparingly, and when you do them, start to maybe understand that these teams, you get one, you might get another. Like Princeton, no one thought after they beat Arizona, it's like, that's so cool. And then they beat Missouri, right? And it's like, wait a second, now they're in the Sweet 16. That type of stuff happens a lot more. It's not a frequency of upsets, but it's like a couple teams that actually string together some wins. So that's my only thing is like, I wouldn't go 12-13, 12-13, 12-13, 12-13, but then at the end, just have all 4 1 seeds. That's not going to be reality, probably. I would maybe focus on, I don't know, just dive into it in a kind of a different realm. I guess that's the only thing I kind of have to say before, like, hopefully you guys listen to this before, you make your brackets.
Yep. So with that being said, let's go region by region and kind of pick who we've got here. Starting with the East. As my Final Four team, I'm going back and forth on this a little bit. And I think we have a potential to get some really interesting matchups. Like if we, in the Sweet 16, got Iowa State and Illinois, those are 2 polar opposite teams. I mean, Iowa State is one of the best defensive teams in the country. Illinois couldn't stop a nosebleed, but damn it, can they score? And they showed that today against Wisconsin. And then at the top of the bracket, like Auburn just won the SEC, one of the most difficult conferences in college basketball. UConn cruised to a Big East title. You didn't even break a sweat. So out of the East, I'm going to take UConn. I truly feel that this team is as good, if not better, than last year's squad. Now, I will say this: their trip to the Final Four will not be as easy. They're not going to go double-digit wins all the way through like they did last year. But I'm going to take UConn out of the East. I like this Husky team a lot. Dan Hurley has a ton of experience at this point, so I'll take the Huskies.
My thing about the Huskies, Cody, is how many times do you think this year they have been losing late in the second half, at any point / come back in that scenario? Because I honestly don't think they've experienced any of that since January of 2023. Because obviously they cruised, like you're saying, through last postseason, and then they just cruised through the Big East. St. John's put up a fight, but UConn's winning that game. Like they were up 8, kind of, for a majority of that back half. St. John's was just kind of right there. But did UConn ever, like, were they down 4 with 3.5? Do I trust them in that scenario? I don't know. The jury's kind of out on that sense. You would want to say yes, but we truly have not seen it in so long that I think it could be a little kryptonite that's hidden. And I've been thinking that for a while, and it just hasn't changed. So I think I'm not going to go UConn. I actually might go an FAU over UConn. We'll see. I think it's going to end up being Auburn, Iowa State. That would be a toss-up. I think Iowa State might be a bit too popular of a pick, so I'm going to go with Auburn to make the Final Four.
Okay. I like that. Auburn, Bruce Pearl, a lot of fun. Moving it over to the South.
Cody, you got 4 Power 5 conference champions in that region. You got UConn, Auburn, Illinois, and Iowa State. So all these teams that are technically hot right now could be in the Sweet 16, just creating havoc. That's nuts.
Yeah, it's insane that, that's how it ended up. The South is tough. The South is so tough. I kept saying before the year started that Kentucky was going to be my team. I was going to take them to the Final Four no matter what. And then they started to, not play great defense. And Duke is soft, and I hate this Duke team. I am going to go with my gut here in the South. I don't like it at all, but I don't know who I like out of the South. So I'm going to take this team and I'm going to stick with them. I'm going to go with Grant McCasland and Texas Tech. I really like this team. I like Grant McCasland a lot as a head coach. I think Houston has a shot to trip up before Texas Tech would see them in the Elite Eight. If Tyler Kolek isn't healthy for Marquette and Kentucky is as streaky as anybody in the country, I truly think the South could be an absolutely chaotic region. I'm going to go with Texas Tech.
6 seed out of the South for you, Cody.
Yep.
My problem there is, like, let's say Houston does get through to the Elite Eight. If Texas Tech is their opposition, I think Houston's got them by 30, right? Like, Houston's so good. So in your shoes, you kind of have to hope for Houston to trip up earlier, which is entirely possible. I don't know where they're at confidence-wise. It kind of depends on what Kelvin Sampson's going to do. I'm pretty sure he's definitely very focused on one game ahead. He's great at that.
Mm-hmm.
I have been pretty aggressively on Houston for a while now. I'm not going to really let anything change my mind. Like, they did not look good against Iowa State, I know. But I've seen enough, more than enough, to know that they are just insanely good when they're at their best. So I have to go Houston here. And I can't foresee a world that I change that in the next 4 days. But we'll see.
I don't hate that. I mean, they have the best defensive player in the country in Shed, and their guard plays outstanding. I mean, defense wins championships, and if that mantra does hold true, then Houston has the best of that. So I don't blame you one bit. The Midwest is interesting. I know a lot of people want to take Purdue. and a lot of people are also going to pick Purdue to lose like the first or second game. Um,
Right.
this is, I would truly love nothing more than to see a Matt Painter Rick Barnes Elite Eight matchup to play and go to the Final Four. I think that would be absolute cinema. I think it would be so much fun. Um, but for that to happen, they're going to have to shut down Creighton and Baylor Shireman and Ryan Kalkbrenner. And that is my boy. Baylor Shireman has been the guy that I've ridden with pretty much all year as, one of my favorite players to watch in college basketball. If we get a Baylor Shireman Dalton Connect matchup, I mean, that's going to put white boys back on the map for a while. That's huge. I'm going to take Creighton here out of the Midwest. I really like this Greg McDermott team. They went to the Elite Eight last year, the longest run that Creighton has gone on in program history. And I think they have a shot, to have that kind of success again. So initially, I'm going to ride with Creighton.
See, where I'm at right now with Purdue is I'm leaning towards they're probably just going to fumble. I do think the pressure is just going to be too much. I do. I think TCU could do it. I don't know about Utah State. I mean, we'll see. But, so I kind of am looking at Gonzaga and Kansas. Kansas is going to be the least popular picked team in the whole bracket. No one's going to pick Kansas. And
Yep.
if they're healthy, they got a great starting five. They have a great head coach. I still think they're fraudulent, but there's some value there. I like Gonzaga. I like Kansas. Maybe to come out of this region. I don't really trust anyone out of the bottom. I think Creighton might be due for a loss. I'm not going to lie. So I won't go too much into it, but as of right now, it's really going to be Gonzaga or Kansas. That's just where I'm leaning. I just would have to think about that more.
It's bold, but it's not unbelievable. Like those are two teams. Like if you were to say, hey, it's Mark Few and Bill Self, like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense that those two guys would be able to do it. So
they do it
I don't hate
Painter,
that.
doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Don't hate that one bit. Moving on to the West. I think this is North Carolina and Arizona, and then I think there's a little bit of a drop off here. Not a huge fan of Baylor. I've said that all year. I'm anti-Baylor on this show. I'll have them beating Colgate, but I am anti-Baylor. That being said, I think this is North Carolina's region to take. I think RJ Davis is going to have a legacy tournament. He is an outstanding basketball player. In terms of like the most electric players to watch in the country, I think he is at the top of the list this year. Him, Dalton Connect, and Zach Edey are the three like surefire first team All-Americans in my mind. I think he is absolutely outstanding. They hit all the metrics. They hit every they're supposed to be the ranked in the week 6 of the AP poll and top whatever in this KenPom metric and top whatever in the net, and they check all those boxes. They are that damn good. I'm going to go with North Carolina out of the West.
Yeah. I think Hubert Davis has done a fantastic job. I think he's a fantastic coach. I trust him more than Tommy Lloyd because Arizona kind of has the Purdue-Tennessee syndrome. If we're being honest, at least it feels that way. I don't think I've ever seen them in the Final Four, and they've been good for a while. Baylor's a tough one. Again, this is where it just gets tricky for me because it's Clemson. I'm pretty happy with getting a Baylor draw there.
No, I think you should be.
Right, but it's also am I going to be thinking about oh my God, well, we're going to lose to frickin' New Mexico, right? And then it's just kind of that's just going to be really tough. This region's going to be tough. I also think I can see 9 seed, 12 seed, 13 seed, 11 seed, 14 seed, 10 seed, and maybe even 15 seed winning. I can see I don't trust a lot of teams in this region. Mm-hmm. It's weird, it kind of looks worse than some of the other regions just off the eye test.
Yep.
Alabama and St. Mary's as your 4 or 5. I mean, that's just not enticing to me really at all. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess if I had to go with a winner, it's honestly pretty gross. I don't really know what I would do. Maybe I do chalk, but I feel like a lot of people are going to be just like, oh, I'm just going to do chalk because none of these other teams entice me. So I feel like got to do something crazy. Maybe this is Clemson's year.
Let's go.
Let's go Tigers, man. Final Four.
All right, bet. I love it. All right, so with that being said, if you guys do think that you were better at picking a bracket than us, we are doing a bracket challenge. It is on ESPN. The link is in my bio for sure.
It's in my bio.
Nick, I think it's in your bio as well.
Could be in all of them.
Go check that out. You guys have all of our social medias. It's in the description of the podcast or the YouTube video, wherever you're watching. But it is completely free to join. We will be giving out a $150 gift card, a $50 gift card, and a $25 gift card to the top 3. So make sure you guys join that. It's going to be a ton of fun. It's on ESPN. Those gift cards are to Home Field Apparel, which has this sick merch. I got the I'm a Beaver Believer shirt on.
Friggin' sick, dude. I'm so jealous.
They really, truly do make the best college basketball and college football and any college merch out there. And then when you go and buy that stuff, use code NICK15 to save 15% off your first purchase at SeatGeek. That way you can stretch those gift cards further. But even if you guys don't win the gift cards, still go buy the Home Field merch. One, it's a great way to support the podcast because we need to get Nick a computer and a nice camera for him. But the other thing is it truly is a phenomenal company that, we both enjoyed before they supported us. So that being said, fill out the brackets like this, share it with a friend, be a friend, tell a friend, and we will see you in the next one. Welcome
Good luck
to March.
Good luck, everybody.